Signed by a vote of 9-3 that Wade Wilson should be sentenced to death.
Wade Wilson was sentenced to death for the brutal murders of 2 women in one day. Now Wilson is taking his fight to vacate his conviction and set aside his death sentence to a higher court.
The next step for my client and probably for Mr. Hunt is going to be the United States Supreme Court to consider that.
And a woman who dated him speaks publicly for the very first time.
Honestly, I was thinking someone must have stolen this model's pictures or something.
Welcome to Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Wade Wilson is on Florida's death row, convicted of murdering 2 women in one day. The crimes rocked Southwest Florida. Who could do such a thing? Prosecutors in Lee County say that Wade Wilson could and did. It happened one day in October 2019. 35-year-old Christine Melton.
Murdering 2 women in one day, that's just sickening. Something wrong with this person.
And Diane Ruiz, a 43-year-old woman, they were both murdered after encountering Wilson. Here's some of the opening statement from the state's attorney.
Christine Melton was 35 years old when she died. She was found in her South Cape Coral residence, wrapped in some bedding, tied with some shirts and leggings and a bathing suit top. Her face was black and blue. Her fingernails were broken. She had marks around her neck as she lied on the floor between her bedroom and the kitchen area of her residence. Diana Ruiz was 43 years old. She was found on an empty lot, under some shrubs, under a tree, just lying there. Her nose had been broken. Her hyoid bone and thyroid cartilage had been broken. She had suffered multiple rib fractures, not only front, but also in the back. Now, what you're going to learn during the course of this trial, ladies and gentlemen, is that Ms. Ruiz and Ms. Melton had 3 things in common. Both of them died on the 7th of October of 2019. Both of them had been strangled. And both of them, before they were forever silenced, the last person that they encountered was Mr. Wade Wilson.
At trial, Wilson's attorney didn't even argue that he did not commit the murders.
We're not arguing he didn't do it. There's solid evidence that he is responsible for those 2 deaths and the battery of Miss Montanez. But Miss Montanez's testimony, you need to think about that, whether this was premeditated Miss Melton had sex with him. He could have just gotten up and left or stayed with her. Instead, he murders her? That's not clear thinking, shall we say.
For him to have murdered these 2 ladies in the same manner, exactly the same way, on the same day, it's starting to seem like some kind of ritualistic sacrifice. As you can see, you can look at him and tell that there's something wrong with him. There's untreated trauma, but still, there's no excuse for the behavior that he's committed.
I'm not arguing insanity. I'm just arguing that the state's claiming premeditation, and I'm saying he's whacked out. He's just out of his mind for any of this.
Wade Wilson's presence in the courtroom captivated people. He could be charming and even cool, earning him the nickname Handsome Devil for his striking looks. His face covered in tattoos that he'd started marking all over his face when he was in jail. But Wilson was a drug addict who started using drugs when he was 13. The cool, charming guy was dangerous, a killer. Wade Wilson's father testified at trial about his adopted son confessing.
Did he end up calling you later that evening?
Yes, ma'am.
And what did he tell you in that call that evening?
The final call?
Nope, the call before the final call.
He just told me, he did something. There was 2 people gone that would not be back. He said, I'm a killer. I just told him to call me back. I just thought it was another story.
So at this point, when he says that there were 2 people that wouldn't be with us and that he was a killer, did you put a lot of weight into that?
No, ma'am.
Do you think he was just telling you a story?
He's a good storyteller.
So did he then call you back a 3rd time?
Yes, ma'am.
What time did he call you back?
It was around 10 o'clock.
I want to go back to that dinner time call. When he talked about these 2 people who were no longer with us and that he was a killer, did he show any type of remorse?
No, ma'am.
So let's go now to the 10 o'clock call. Again, your wife knew...
Elektrisch rijden met de klasse van Japans vakmanschap. De volledig nieuwe Mazda 6e.
Your wife knew about kind of what was going on during that day.
Yes, ma'am.
And when he called back at 10, did he go into more details about what he had told you earlier?
Yes, ma'am.
So let's start with the first girl. If you could tell the jurors, what did he tell you?
He just said he met a girl at a bar. They went back to her house, hung out for a little bit. And then she fell asleep.
What did he say happened after she fell asleep?
He said he got on top of her and choked her.
What name did he call her? Did he refer to her in a derogatory term?
He said that I choked that.
And what did he say he did after he choked her?
He said he stayed in the house for a little while, and then he rolled her up and was going to try to put her in her trunk, but he couldn't lift her.
Did he say why he was unable to put her in her trunk?
He said that he felt like rigor mortis had started to set in.
And does rigor mortis make your body stiff? You didn't know?
I think so.
So he just told you that that was the reason that he couldn't lift her and get her into her trunk?
Yes, ma'am.
And when he said her trunk, it was the trunk of her car he was going to put her in?
Yes, ma'am.
So what did he tell you he did when he couldn't get her body into her own trunk?
He left her there and took her car.
This is the type of case where checking out someone before you go on a date is the best thing that you can do. Truthfinder is a great way that you can do that. We partner with Truthfinder for the public record searches we do here on Law and Crime. Truthfinder saves us research time so we can focus on reporting crime, not paperwork. You can use Truthfinder too. Type in a name to find addresses, criminal history, and more. It's our go-to tool for checks and one of the largest search services in the United States. With a subscription, you get unlimited confidential searches to check on new neighbors, vet people you meet online, or find someone to reconnect with. Even look up registered sex offenders nearby or do a background search on yourself. Stay informed, stay safe, check public records with Truthfinder now at truthfinder.com/LCCrimeFix. Wilson was swiftly convicted and sentenced to death.
Count 1. First-degree murder, Christine Melton. The defendant is guilty of first...
Yeah, just before this continues, you can definitely tell that this person is something wrong. For him to kill someone, to still take their vehicle and to use it, it just shows that thing, the level that his mind is functioning at. Essentially not functioning.
Degree murder. Count 2. guilty of grand theft motor vehicle. Count 3, battery. The defendant is guilty of battery. Count 4, first-degree murder, Diane Ruiz. The defendant is guilty of first-degree murder. Count 5, burglary of dwelling. The defendant is guilty of burglary of a dwelling. Count 6, first-degree petty theft. The defendant is guilty of first-degree petty theft. Dated 6/12/24, so say we all, 4-person.
Recently, Law and Crime produced a documentary that's streaming on Paramount Plus entitled Handsome Devil, Shocking Killer. It tells the story of the case and the following that Wade Wilson amassed among women on social media because of his looks. Chelsea Bianco spoke exclusively with Law and Crime. Bianco dated Wilson.
I'm from Florida. I'm a photographer. I'm a mom of 2 little girls and a bunch of pit bulls. That's about it. I travel for a living, and I love it.
Bianco said she met Wade Wilson on Facebook, and at first, she didn't believe the profile photo was real.
I thought I was being catfished. His appearance, it just didn't seem real. Honestly, I was thinking someone must have stolen this model's pictures or something, and I asked him, if he was legit, and he said, well, let's FaceTime. And so we did, and that was our first conversation. His Facebook only had a handful of pictures, and a lot of times, and no followers, no friends really. It wasn't like a regular profile, so it was, concerning. And then when we FaceTimed it proved it was him. He just had a new Facebook, I guess, so. He was a good-looking guy, I was single and he was single, so there wasn't too much more. I guess I should have asked more questions, obviously.
Bianco talked about what Wilson looked like when she met him.
Our first outing we went to, he had his shirt off, so you could pretty much see most of them, one from Houston, stuff about Texas, a girl's face, I believe, was a couple of them.
And she talked about how there were signs that something was off with Wade from the start.
There was already red flags from the start. I had a friend of mine that was with me, and her boyfriend and him and Wade clicked. So the next day, my friend's boyfriend actually told me that he had gotten a hold of drugs while we were at the concert. So that was already a concern from the beginning. So we work all kinds of events, festivals, fairs, concerts, arts and crafts shows, all kinds of stuff. So we work food concessions. We sell funnel cakes and corn dogs and stuff out of food trailers. He worked in our pizza stand, and I caught him stealing while he was in there. He looked at me like he could not believe I just questioned him, and very slowly unraveled the $50 bill that was crumbled up underneath his fingers and handed it to me. And I took it and put it where it was supposed to go. And that was kind of our first real eye contact, I feel like. He acted like he wasn't going to put it anywhere bad. He acted like, what? And I mean, when you're taking money at a register, what's the reason to have a $50 bill rolled up under your fingers back here where you can't see it? Where was it going to go? It wasn't going to the right places.
Now I'm going to get into more from Chelsea Bianco shortly, but first, let's get back to Wade Wilson's criminal case.
Good morning and welcome to the Florida Supreme Court. Our first case today is Wilson versus State of Florida, number 2024-1345.
Wade Wilson's case was a death penalty case, of course, so it's automatically being appealed to the Florida Supreme Court. One of his main arguments, the constitutionality of Florida's new requirement for a death penalty verdict following the Parkland school shooting case. When the killer received life without parole instead of a death sentence, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis signed a bill into law that lowered the threshold for the jury verdict from unanimous to 8-4 for a death sentence.
Michael Luckman on behalf of Wade Wilson. May it please the court. Seated with me at the council table is co-counsel for Mr. Wilson, Laurel Cornell Niles. If this argument had been taking place on December 17th of 2025, my presentation would be very different. But I certainly am aware of the two opinions that this court issued on December 18th. Hunt being the lead one, and Jackson perhaps to a lesser extent. I will acknowledge that all of the claims that I'm raising in my brief have been considered and rejected in the Hunt opinion.
The Hunt opinion relates to Michael Hunt's conviction for a 2019 quadruple shooting that left a teenager dead and 3 seriously hurt. The Florida Supreme Court upheld his death sentence under the new non-unanimous threshold.
I continue to believe in these arguments that I've raised. Of course, I believe under Pew that my client has an ex post facto challenge. But again, this court has rejected that challenge. And the next step for my client and probably for Mr. Hunt is going to be the United States Supreme Court to consider that. So otherwise, I love a good intellectual argument, but it doesn't make a lot of sense to beat my head against a brick wall knowing that literally less than or just over 30 days ago, you've issued an opinion addressing all of the issues that I'm raising in my brief. So, of course, I'm open to any questions, but at the same time, the other point I was going to make, perhaps if I could distinguish Hunt, or perhaps if I could say that that Hunt was somehow not argued the way that I would have argued it, but I'm very familiar with Hunt. I've watched Ms. Becheris's argument. I think she did a wonderful job, and she presented all the issues that I would have presented them the way that I would present them today or on December 17th. And beyond that, Ms. Becheris was my legal writing and oral argument instructor in law school. And one of the first things she instructed me is when there's precedent against you, you acknowledge that precedent to the court. You preserve your issue for further review, but you don't waste the court's time unless the court is somehow interested in further discussing the matter. So with that, if there are any questions, I'm happy to address them. Otherwise, again, I acknowledge that Hunt resolves the issues in this case. I preserve these issues, and I will intend to raise them in the United States Supreme Court.
So there were no oral arguments as planned. Wilson's attorneys are going to the U.S. Supreme Court now with their arguments.
I'm Rick Buckwalter, Assistant Attorney General, and I represent the appellee in this case, the state of Florida. My intention coming here this morning was to limit my arguments to responding to those arguments raised by my friend over here on my left, given that he has acknowledged that this court's decisions in both Hunt and Jackson kind of set that aside for today. I really don't have any argument to make, and we would sit on our brief unless, of course, the court has any questions.
Chelsea Bianco talked about how she feels about Wade Wilson.
I would doubt he has any remorse for anything he did. He didn't seem remorseful in any of the little snippets of the court videos that I did see. He was damn near smiling. I think he was thinking he could get over on me, and I was thinking, I see this every day. We hire people, and that's the number one thing that I have to watch out for, whether you're my boyfriend or not. And I don't honestly think Wade even knows who he is as a person, because he's constantly putting on a facade to impress people. I try to still see the human in him, but at the same time, you can't deny the things that he's done. So it's hard to still have humility when someone's done the things that they've done.
Chelsea also talked about her state of mind when she was dating Wade, who she said cheated on her twice.
I was very overweight and drinking a lot whenever I met him. I was in a very toxic state, I would say, in my life. And so I drank a lot at that time, and it made me very overweight. So I feel like that was something that was pointed out, was people saying that I was desperate. But I feel like at the end of the day, he was the one that was desperate. And also, when we got to our next event, another person told me that they seen a girl come out of our room. So whether it was the girl, he got her number, or a whole new one, I don't know. I think that he is just the true definition of a narcissist, because I feel like that's what they do. They just consistently use people.
And despite Wade's good looks, Chelsea said their sex life was nothing special.
It wasn't all warm and fuzzy. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't falling in love. It wasn't cute, sweet cuddles at night. It was like almost roommate status, or, you know, just we're living in the same room, in the same bed, and that's what it is. I don't think your looks has anything to do with what you're capable of in the bedroom. Just because a boat looks nice doesn't mean it floats, you know? There's no motor.
Chelsea is incredibly hopeful that other women can learn from her story.
I hope that my story can make girls ask more questions, and it can show my daughters one day just to be smarter than their mom and keep themselves as safe as they possibly can.
Wade Wilson remains on Florida's death row. His appeal is now on its way to the U.S. Supreme Court, as you heard, and Law and Crime will keep an eye on this for you. That's it for this episode of Crime Fix. I'm Anjanette Levy. Thanks so much for being with me.
Yeah, so as you can see, this individual, definitely there's something wrong psychologically and in every other aspect. What he did, he shouldn't have done, so now he has to face the consequence of his actions.